Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. Good day, good morning, wherever time frame you're in. I'm so appreciative of you coming and joining everybody in practice. So we'll just spend a little while sitting together as other people arrive. So let's find where we are right now, how we're feeling right now, and we'll just start. we're joined together in saying, vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. Wearing the universal teaching, I realize the one true nature, thus harmonizing all being. It feels such a gift to sit with this community of people who interrupt their day or their morning or their evening to come and sit together to do this mysterious thing, this thing that something in us really wants to find something. And we don't always know what that is, but something keeps us turning up, keeps us putting us back on our cushions and in these contexts and in this company. So I'm so grateful for people's practice. And I'm really curious about kind of what it is that gets people to this space, what it is that gets people to sit on the cushion. And as both a long-term therapist and a quite long-term human being, I kind of really know how deeply, often in a very troubled and kind of desperate way, we long for something to change. You know, we long for ourselves to change, or we long for the world to change, and we really want something to be different often. And that, you know, to take the backward step and to be able to see that longing as an expression of our basic goodness, not as something missing, not as something we're repairing or mending, or but actually as an expression, a deep expression of our basic goodness. And I know, you know, for myself, how easily that longing can be hijacked into the, you know, the curative fantasy, into the problem, into the thing I'm meant to be doing something about, rather than cherishing the longing as an expression. Certainly myself, I had a really powerful desire for radical change. I really did not want to be me. I really did not want to be me in this body, in the life I was in for a really long time. And I longed for a miracle. That was kind of in my head a lot as a younger person, that there needed to be a miracle. And I was reminded of this recently when I was listening to a song. It's on an album by East Forest. I don't know if any of you know them. They're a band that include often the work of Ram Dass. Some of the music is just his voiceover to music in the background. And so there's a relatively recent album out of theirs. I think it's either music for the Titanic or music to die by. I can't remember. It's got a great title, but there's a song on it called "So What." So what? And it's one of his students, who's called Duncan Trussell, who starts off this song. And so apologies for, I'm going to quote him directly. And like me, he swears, but it's his words, not mine. So apologies for that in advance. He says, "I don't know if anything changes that much. Do you ever think about that? Like, let's say the Buddha does show up. Let's say the grand thing happened. Let's say Jesus rides in on the lion or whatever. You know, the thing is shown, the great unveiling. You know, then what? You're still going to end up on a UFO flying through space. You go to the bathroom and some asshole pissed on the seat and you're going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with people? Has anyone ever had that thought before? What the fuck is wrong with people? And quite often, what's wrong with me? And I think we've all probably had some version of that feeling at some point or other. And as I was thinking about this, so what? So what if the big thing happens? And I want to tell you a story about a miracle. It's a genuine, bona fide miracle. It happened to me. I was there, so I'm the guarantor of this one. So in 1974, I was studying at college on the south coast of England in the UK, and I was going to be a primary school teacher. Never happened, thank the Lord. But I was also travelling miles each weekend to be part of a Hindu temple in South Wales. And the resident guru there, who is called Sri Subramaniam, had himself started following a really well-known guru in India, Satya Sai Baba. And Sai Baba was well known for being a miracle maker. And one of his miracles was to produce this sacred ash that's called vibhuti. And he would stand and wave his hand and ash would appear, or he would pour it out of a vase, or there was this sacred ash, vibhuti. And I longed for such a miracle. I thought this was like, Gandalf, a Hindu Gandalf, who knew? So I was sitting and I went into had a little meditation room practice and a table in my room, an altar. And so I was sitting in my bedroom and I was sitting closed eyes and I was just willing the world to send me a sign, something, a miracle, something or other. I was calling on all the gods to come and help me, release me, do something. And I opened my eyes and there on my altar was a small pile of the sweet smelling sacred ash. I hadn't been there before. I hadn't done anything about it. I hadn't got an incense stick at that point lit. It was just on the altar. I was incredibly excited, as you might imagine. And I called the flatmate I was sharing. I was like, look, it's here. It's amazing. It's a miracle's happened. And then, so what? So what? Nothing changed. I didn't change. The world didn't change. My life looked exactly the same as it had before. I was as unhappy and as happy as I was before the miracle. It was a real kind of, the awakening for me in that was that the miracle is so what? Nothing changed. And I was really struck by that. I got the thing I longed for, and it didn't make any difference to me. And I imagine I'm not the only one of us who, longed for a miracle and maybe even got one and longed for that 180-degree turn and where everything changes and everything becomes different and all is well. And then we bump up into the absolute ordinariness of our lives. Where Flint said recently, impermanence and dissatisfaction are woven into the fabric of our lives, just as awe and wonder and beauty are woven in. And one of my favourite book titles is a book of Jack Cornfield's, and I just love the title. It's a very good book, but I love the title because the title is After the Ecstasy, the Laundry. And that got that same sort of feel for me about after these great peak moments or these awakenings or something is like, there we are sitting in the ordinariness of our lives. Mark Van Buren says, everyone wants to save the world, but no one wants to help mum do the dishes. And I thought you could pretty much say we all want to save ourselves and be heroes, but we don't want to wash up our dishes. You know, that's the job, is washing our dishes. How do we do that? How do we lean, you know, kind of really fruitfully into the ordinariness of our lives? And how do we live kind of with the amazingness of that? The thing that's amazing is just being alive, having dishes to wash. And, you know, I'm really sitting with this, so what? You know, so what? I got this fab new laptop, so what? I met the love of my life, so what? I got the promotion, I got the job, I got the recognition, I got the thing, whatever it is I crave, and then, so what? And by that, I don't mean that kind of life-denying, cynical, so what? But what does this actually mean in my life? You know, now I'm here, I've achieved, got, or lost. Not just achieved, maybe I've lost something, maybe my world has changed massively, and then it's, so what? So what does that mean? I've got my little pile of my mystical ash, which I still have, but I've still got the, so what next? Our little grandson, who's nearly 4, they were coming to stay with us, and he was woken up by his dad, and his dad told him that he was coming for the day with us. We were going to have them for the day, and he said, yes, that is a very good day, which I thought was incredibly cute at 4. But and it was a really good day, and it was a day that included at least 6 major meltdowns: tiredness, hunger, failure to get what he wanted, delight, achievement, playfulness, and scratching his twin so hard he drew blood. It was a day that had everything in it. It was a very good day. It was a very good day. So what? And what now? Duncan Trussell recounts asking Ram Dass if he was his guru. He'd just met him. He just met him. It was the 60s. Just met him. He says, are you my guru? And Ram Dass said, yeah, now what? And I love that kind of like, yeah, now what? Now kind of like, what are you going to do? Not, now I'm your guru, here's what I'm going to do. Now what? Now what do we do together? What are you going to do? For me, I feel like we sit in Zazen to keep meeting and re-meeting our minds again and again, and our longing for our lives to be different, and the way that we have these endless curative fantasies, or if you're like me, you have endless curative fantasies. And I'm wondering, you know, what happens when we soften this need? What happens when we soften our need for the world to change, and when we can meet the world with every single thing that's moving through it and think, I'm miserable. So what? I'm lonely. So what? I'm ecstatic. So what? Can we let go of all these different shifting states, and then something that's essential, something that's really essential is revealed? I am all of these changes and none of them. I'm inextricably linked with everything that's unfolding. At the very least, the question for me, the so what, is how do we live our lives so as not to make things worse? And how do we manifest our essential goodness as an appropriate response to this extraordinary, ordinary, mundane, amazing world that we find ourselves in all the time? And for me, this often means a kind of self-forgiveness, you know, for being me, for being this one who comes up short in whatever ways, or comes up long, or does well, or you know, whatever it is. I know I'm doing my best. And let's see what happens. Can I let go of it needing to mean something? Can I let go of making my story bigger than I am and as big as I am? Can I rest into my essential goodness? Duncan Trussell concludes, it's a very long tape. He talks a lot about UFOs and strange sexual practices. It's fascinating. But he concludes with saying, you might have the most incredible relief when you see, oh shit, right, this is it. Nothing's really changed that much. This is it. This is where it's at. All the other stuff, fireworks show, just fireworks. That to me is something really beautiful. You're still going to be of much greater benefit to the people around you if you found a way to be peaceful and kind. Either way, if you want to find a rudder for the ship of your existence or your incarnation, I think that rudder is exactly what Ram Dass said. We work on ourselves so we can help the people around us. That's the hope. That's the only hope. So I'd like to share another little miracle that happened, and one that did change something for me. So when at some point, I think it must have been the early 1980s, Josh and I and our friend Val had been living in an ashram in LA, and we borrowed a friend's great big old Chevy to drive across the states to go to upstate New York. And we were driving through the Painted Desert, which was extraordinary sort of countryside, not like anything I'd seen in the UK. It was amazing, but the car broke down. And so there were three hapless, pale white people stood with not a mechanical brain amongst us, just in the middle of this desert, with the cars going by really fast on the highway, and just no mobile phones, just like no clue. We had no clue what to do. And then a car pulled in front of us and stopped, and this really disheveled guy got out and sort of ambled over, and he popped the bonnet and he looked under it and realized that the fan belt had broken. And extraordinarily, he offered to drive us into the nearest town, which was Gallup, which was quite some way away. And we had come from an ashram. We were terribly pure. We've been sitting, meditating for hours. We've been chanting and doing seva, and we were feeling very, very spiritual. And then this guy offers us a lift in his car, and at that point, all our worldly goods were in the car. We had to leave them there, but he drove us. And the car, when we got in, he had to do that thing that people don't expect you to do when you're driving alone in your car. You had to move a whole bunch of stuff, which was mostly beer cans. So he's moving all this stuff, and the three of us and the little baby, our daughter was with us, she was a year old, crammed into this car. And I was working with not feeling superior. It's amazing what your mind will do. We're sitting there in this mess, and the beer cans, and he talked to us a bit. He was a Vietnam vet, and he was really struggling with his life. And I'm just kind of inviting you to imagine, here is us three spiritual, saintly people who've been spending time in an ashram, traveling with this guy whose car is virtually a traveling beer can. And he's taking care of us. Anyway, he took us to a hotel. He found a hotel for Val and me and our baby in Gallup. He took Josh to the shop where he could buy the fan belt. He drove him back to the car. He fitted the fan belt, and he came back to us. And we were really thankful. I mean, he just really did save us. And we were just really grateful. And I was feeling a lot less saintly by that point. And in the evening, we went to get a pizza and took him to a restaurant to say thank you. And after the meal, he got up, said he was just going to the restroom, and he disappeared. And when we came to pay, he'd paid for us. And that it was something that he's with me 42 years later. His kindness and his generosity sit with me now, right now, remembering it. And the miracle for me was twofold. It was that deep, generous kindness. But it was also really popped my bubble of delusional goodness, of being confronted with actual goodness. You know, I could be sitting in the ashram being superior, and he could be driving his beer can of a car and be a true, real human being. And I was just so blown away by that. And he lives with me still. He probably has, I don't know if he tells it as a story, the time I rescued the crazy white people in the desert. I don't know. But he's with me. And that stayed. And that's much more of a miracle for me than that pile of ash that I've got. So now I'm kind of asking of myself and of each other, when we sit with this right now, you know, how do we meet in warmth and friendship? You know, how do we meet? How do we lead with kindness? Because that's what actually answers the so what. So what? Be kind. So what? Be kind again. There's two pieces I wanted to finish with. And one's by a poet called Donna Ashworth. People may well have heard this one. It's called Good. Most people are good. Most people kiss their pets goodbye and read just one more bedtime story to their children. Most people visit their grandparents even when they have no time and stop by to check on quiet friends after a day too long and draining. Most people return their shopping trolleys despite being already late and let someone with only one item jump to the front of the queue. Most people give money when money is scarce, and most people worry about people they don't even know, day in and day out. When the world seems bad, remember, most people are good. And the other one is, again, one I'm sure you know. And I'm touched by how many people write about kindness. Like we keep having to remind ourselves, keep having to help each other remember. And the only thing you have to do is be kind. This is called Small Kindnesses by Danusha Lamaris. I've been thinking about the way when you walk down a crowded aisle, people pull their legs in to let you by. Or how strangers still say bless you when someone sneezes, a leftover from the bubonic plague. Don't die, we're saying. Don't die. And sometimes when you spill lemons from your grocery bag, someone else will help you pick them up. Mostly we don't want to harm each other. We want to be handed our cup of coffee hot and to say thank you to the person handing it, to smile at them and for them to smile back. For the waitress to call us honey when she sets down the bowl of clam chowder, and for the driver in the red pickup truck to let us pass. We have so little of each other now, so far from tribe and fire, only these brief moments of exchange. What if they are the true dwelling of the holy, these fleeting temples we make together when we say, here, have my seat, go ahead, you first. I like your hat. I like your hat. So maybe we can come together and share some kindness, like each other's hats, pull in our legs so someone can get past. I'd be really pleased to meet with anyone who wants to come forward and share anything that's been moved or anything you just want to do to meet. Thank you.
We have Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Trudy. Hi, everyone. No, I was so moved by your talk. Not just moved once, but I had waves of, oh, and then they would subside, but then you'd say something else and I would think, oh, and it matters so much.
Mm.
It matters so much to speak these experiences into this space that we're sharing. And it matters so much to see, how important the smallest things are. The poem was lovely. Pulling our feet back so others can pass. I mean, that's enormous.
Mm.
Returning a shopping trolley. The almost miracle. There aren't good words for these things. The man 43 years ago who stopped to help you. And, I've certainly had things like that happen in my life as well. And sometimes I just want to say, I want for others to hear and others to know, oh my gosh, this stranger stopped to help me. Or this stranger without a word, the smallest thing, maybe stopped to pick something up I dropped, maybe saw that I was struggling down the stairs, for example. Just the smallest offerings of, may I help? What can I do? And sometimes, it's without words.
It
So,
feels like the kind of web we're held in, doesn't it? It's like actually those little things are the web that's held us all our lives.
but little things. And I love your quote from Flint about all these beautiful things are woven into our lives, as well as the things that trouble us.
Mm.
I mean, they aren't necessarily negative, but they're troubling to us, like your description of your grandson. And it's so important not to let, to me anyhow, not to let the troubling things expand to fill our consciousness and push out all those memories, of the man in the beer can card. I mean, they're so endearing. Sometimes the characters who stop to help us, they're eccentric people that you never would have encountered otherwise. You never would have had a reason or a chance to connect with that individual, and they wouldn't have had a chance to connect with you. So there's so much to be said. It's like you opened up a big, wonderful cavern of stories.
I can feel them, Lisa. I
Yeah,
can feel them.
thank you so, so much.
Mm.
And I know each one of us has them.
Every
Yeah,
everybody has
everyone
them.
has these. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Mm.
Rosemary.
Hi, Trudy.
Hi.
Hi. Like Lisa said, there were so many pieces to this, and the piece that I wanted to talk about was the so what
Mhm.
part. So I think someone mentioned last week that I'm head student at Appomatto as of,
Congratulations.
thank you, as of Sunday officially. And I was thinking as I rehearse, this is a big problem for me. I rehearse in my mind how I'm going to be with T or how I'm going to do a Dharma talk or these things. And And
Welcome
then,
to the hell of the Dharma Gate.
yeah, yeah. And like you with your ash, you know, I will acknowledge this was something that I wished for.
Yeah.
And actually revealing that to Flint was like a big thing. And he said, well, you just want to be loved. You know, so he sort of got it down to the basic piece. And I was thinking, I'm still the same person. Nothing's changed, just like you were saying. That was very affirming to hear you caution us in a way. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
To the, it's almost, for me anyway, it's seducing that these things that happen,
Yeah.
that appear to be, you know, so different, and to I wanted to respond now to the other things you said about the small things. And it's a little bit different than receiving the help. Is like, okay, so I was in Manhattan coming back. I took public transportation. It's wintertime, got out of the bus. Oh my goodness, I have to walk. And I was near the pharmacy where I needed to pick something up. And on the way to the pharmacy, some of you have heard this, is the salon where I used to get, like, haven't been there in like over a year, but for years and years, got my nails done there. I go, oh, well, do you think Sophia's in there? The lady the proprietress, think she's in there? I walked past, I go, and then I walked back and I looked in and she was there. So I went in, and I mean, there was this huge hug. She wouldn't let go of me. It was like this huge hug. And, you know, that was lovely. And then I went to the pharmacy, and the guy in the pharmacy, who kind of knew, he said, so how was your Christmas? And I go, oh, well, nice. How was yours? And there were a few other stops along the way before I got home. And so it was more like, let me take a chance, you know? Let me go back and see if she's there. And so anyway, I just wanted to add that piece to it's like the kindness piece with connection.
I was thinking about the courage it takes too to love and be loved.
Yeah, all of those things, the backward step to go into the salon was like a big, for me, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right.
Yeah, and you got home and I had the feeling of like you being sort of patted into reality. It's like you got home like a real person.
Yeah, yeah, I
All
felt
that.
completely different after there were two more. There was a cafe, and then there was the cleaners. And, you know, the last one was like a wave. And that's also been happening. You know, this is an apartment, you know, it's suburbs, but it's all apartment buildings. So there's a big tendency to not do that. But I'm starting, you know, you wave. You see somebody you think you know from your floor across the street, you wave. It's like, yeah, you're right about the courage. Yeah, for me. So, thank you.
Well, I wish you much connection in offering tea.
Thank you. Can I read a little something that I wrote in my ceremony? It's real short. So, Rumi, we believe, wrote something like, beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. There's more to it, but so this is mine after him. Right now, in this moment, may the barriers to love begin to soften. And in that field, beyond all distinctions, of me and you. Let us meet and enjoy the oneness and movement of life. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mm.
I'm just checking if Francis, if you still wanted to come forward. I saw your hand up there. Yeah.
Thank you there. There you are. Hi,
Yeah,
Francis.
hi. I always enjoy being with you, Trudy. It makes me, I love England, and I always think, oh, I wish I lived close to Trudy. I was just thinking that the real joy in all of these stories is when we feel connected, whether we're the giver or the receiver. Back at the beginning of COVID, when everything just went so eerie, and I was driving back through our town has a square. I was driving back through there, and there was absolutely no one else, no cars. I'd taken my grandson's home. And there was this man standing over on the corner, and he looked a little bit homeless, but not quite. And I mean, I never stop and, pull over in an isolated, place, not knowing it. But I was just drawn to do that. And so I pulled over, had my dog actually in the passenger seat. And he was on that side. And I just took some money and I rolled the window down about halfway and said something to him. And he walked toward me, and I said, and I held the money up so he could see it. And I said, I don't mean to insult you. And I said, I don't know if this will be helpful, but I just wanted to, offer it. And he had the most beautiful, kind eyes of anyone I've ever seen, I think. And rather than just reaching for the money, he said to me in the most meaningful, sincere way, he said, how are you doing?
Mm.
And like you just said a while ago, he is with me. Now, I may or not be with him. I gave him a little money. But
It wasn't that transaction that counted, was it?
It was, we had a connection, a kindness connection, and it will always be with me. So it's the connection that we grasp and value, I think.
And it is that, like we were saying with Rosemary, it is that courage to step forward into, tremulously sometimes, and it's not always easy, but there's something about when we meet and really see each other as best we can.
Yeah, and I wonder where was that little bit of courage that I had, because I generally would not, especially in a very isolated, there was absolutely nothing else going on. It was eerie, it was just how we felt those first couple of days. And I normally wouldn't have the courage to pull over in an isolated place right up next to, I didn't roll the window all the way down. And my dog was there. but I rolled it down partway. Yeah. It's just a memory, and I can still see his face. It's just kind. It was just so.
Yeah, he responded to your kindness. Something got called forward in both of you. And I think that's kind of our job, really, is keep calling it forward in ourselves and each other.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Cassie.
I had the question of, noticing how much was transmitted from your interaction with the guy in the beer can car, and I had it on gallery view when that was going on, and I could see it landing, I could feel it landing in me, and I could see it landing in others. What is our block of not doing that? you know, is it like, is it just like as simplistic as we're caught in the self-centered dream? And what, you know, what stops us from either going there to make the offering, or going there to make the, or in the receiving, or, you know, making our life like not so integrated with these moments that are so incredibly precious universally to us.
Yeah. I mean, I have ideas, but I wondered what stops you. Do you have a sense of what stops you?
Um, you know, I guess one thing is like that it's all too much, like a
Mm,
fear of overwhelm.
mm.
Um, uh, and if like there's not an equal vulnerability happening, that there might be some kind of violence there, or you know, that it that when that opening in me is like really just wide open, then, you know, what's to stop something negative, I guess.
So sensitivity,
Yeah.
talking about some real sensitivity and some care of yourself in that. Um, and I guess you're noticing sometimes that's probably really needed, and sometimes it will be limiting. You know, sometimes it might not be overwhelming and it might be joyous.
And I feel like my experience is that it's not overwhelming and it is joyous. And so kind of like then with that knowledge, then why, you know, some kind of self-centered block is still there.
Yeah, we're a bit dumb.
Okay. I can go there. I can take that. Yeah, all right. That tracks. That tracks. You know?
I mean that. It's kind of like we don't learn easily, do we? You know, it's like, yeah, we can keep having that. It's okay. It's not overwhelming and it's mostly joyous. And probably these days, if it was painful, you would be resourced enough to cope.
Yeah.
You know, you could reach out or you could manage yourself. It's kind of like, it's not likely to be totally destructive, but
Yeah. So it's
it's
okay to
still,
just get out there and play.
yeah, get out there and play.
Thanks. I said Geneva's back, so I'm
Thank you. There you go.
Hi, I just put my hand up and then the doorbell rang. So I was like, so I put my camera off because I put my hand down and I ran to the door, you know, and it's this guy and he's like pulling out a business card and he's like, hi, I work for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm in a meeting. And I close the door and I come back and I'm like, whoops. And I go back to the door. And I have to chase him
Missed
all
that
the way.
moment.
I was like, here we are in this meeting about kindness, and I'm slamming the door in his face because I have to get back to the kindness meeting. And I was like, so I ran all the way down my driveway yelling, like, sir, you know, what is it that you do? And he's like, oh, well, I do, you know, driveway, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, sure, I'll take a card, you know, and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your teaching. It's so true. It's like, you know, yeah, we might, like I was when I first got in the car, you know, being saintly, you know, and who was the really kind person, you know, certainly wasn't me
Yes.
at
And
that
I didn't
point.
even think about, you know, I'm like, here he is coming to my house, interrupting, you know, it's like, what's going on for him? You know, he was missing a tooth, you know, he's very, very thin.
Like
You
he's
know, he
having
was
to
very,
go around.
when I said I was in a meeting, he kind of like, you
Yeah.
know, okay, you know, and I'm like, this is a person who, you know, also has a heart and soul.
Yeah.
So I was almost too embarrassed to come back and
Oh, I'm so delighted you did. I think
like,
we
oh my
couldn't
God.
have had a better teaching. Which
So
is,
I
yeah.
have a couple of heroes in my life, a couple of inspirations, and they're both, well, one of them I just met for just a week maybe. And they both were they'd been through such incomprehensible suffering, and both of them were missing limbs, just by the way. And they were so giving. And I was very young in both cases, and I was just mystified. It's like, I don't understand this. Like, how do you go through that and not be, irritable and resentful, primarily because and in one case I was in Mexico, and I was going to an encuentro to meet a reunion with the Zapatistas in the jungle on the border of Guatemala. And the Mexican government didn't want anybody doing that. So I got on this bus and went, for ages and ages and ages. And then they put the roadblock up right at the end, right before, so we have to turn back and go all the way back up and then go back another way. So at this moment, I'm standing, and these two men come up to me, and one of them is clearly drunk, and the other one is missing a leg. And he says to me, "You're going to see the Zapatistas, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, I just wondered if you wanted to share a cab." And I'm like, "Okay, so here's one of these moments, I have this doesn't seem like a good idea, but I somehow am saying yes."
Yeah.
So I get into the cab with them, and we then had a cab ride that lasted a very long time. I don't remember if it was an hour or whatever. And the man with one leg told his story. And at this point, to me, he was old. I don't know how old he was, but I was like 25 or something. He was maybe 50, I don't know. And he had belonged to a group called La Liga, which means the link, when he was young in Mexico, and they were fighting for social justice. And they were rounded up by the federal government and tortured. And his 5 months pregnant wife was tortured to death. He was tortured until he lost a leg. 2 of his best friends were tortured to death. And then he adopted their son, who was still with him. And of course, he was terribly poor. I don't know how he managed to survive, at all, what kind of work he could have done, and no partner. And he was so kind. And he was so, he just told the story like, this is what happened, not like, and I'm really pissed off about it. And then I remember that when we got there, the minute we got out of the car, he's like, "Oh, let me carry your bag." And he's like taking my bag. And I'm like, whoa, like, isn't it supposed to be the other way around? Then we got there, and like, there are only hammocks, and I have no idea how to string a hammock. So he's stringing my hammock for me. And then in the middle of the week, he had a photograph of himself with Subcomandante Marcos, which is probably his most prized possession in the world, and he gave it to me. And I was just like, okay, I don't know anything, clearly, like, this is it, this is the
true, real generosity. This is just giving.
yes. And it mystified me, but it's never, ever left me.
Oh, he's still with you, like my beer can guy is. And aren't we, gifted to have those to carry forward, to keep reminding us? Because we do. We are
I've never forgotten either of them. They've been my guiding stars. And in terms of what Cassie was saying, like what holds us back, I remember being in we're late. Are we late?
Oh yeah, well, go on, finish.
Oh, I just was in a dark, scary parking lot all by myself. And then there was no other white person there, and people kept glaring at me. And I thought, I am not welcome here. It was a storage facility, and it was like probably people dealing with storage are having rough transitions. Anyway, there's a car with an enormous African-American woman and then a really skinny African-American man trying to push the car up. And I couldn't get through the gate until they could do that. And I'm standing there holding a bunch of stuff in my arms, like, and then I'm debating, like, do they want me to help? Would it be okay if I helped? Should I help? And then I was like, what the fuck is the question about? And I just dropped everything I was holding and I went up and started pushing. So then the car starts moving and the man and I are not, we're like shoulder to shoulder, and he looks straight into my eyes and he says, thank you, darling. I needed your strength.
Yeah.
And I thought I almost didn't do that.
Yeah. And there are so many almosts we don't do, and so many almost we do. Like running down your drive to catch a guy. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Trudy.
Good to see you.
It's lovely.
So we'll finish with something that points to one of our problems, being caught in the self-centered dream, but also the freedom to be in the moment and follow compassion's way. So let's say it together. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering, holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher, being just this moment, compassion's way. So thank you everyone for your presence tonight, and I'm really glad Maria's back, and thank you for being here, Maria, and continue to get better, and I shall look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you, Maria.
Gosh, I've already forgotten to unmute myself. Thank you so much, Trudy. Thank you. That talk's moving away inside of me. I always get quite emotional when you do talks, but thank you so much, and thank you all so much for being here. I've really missed being in this space, and I've missed you all. It's lovely to be back amongst you. And if you'd like to offer Dana to Trudy, I'll put the link in the chat as well. It's justthiszen.org/giving. But thank you all so much for being here. And if you'd like to continue for a further 24 minutes, I think, pop yourself into gallery view. Ed's pinched that off me. He's pinched my saying, and I'll be with you in just a moment. Thank you all so much. Thank you.